is head coach of Melbourne United in the National Basketball League, Dean Vickerman, a two-time NBL championship winner as coach. First, he did it with the New Zealand Breakers, and then, of course, in 2018 with Melbourne United. So let's get Dean in now, and we will get started on episode 38 of the Derek Rucker podcast. Hold on. Dean.
How are you, mate?
Welcome. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you good.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Kind of started to find my little rhythm in isolation. Two daughters that play some hoop. They're 10 and 12, but I've kind of tested them a little bit to see if they love the game. And I've kind of finding out they don't run over to the courts like I would in this time and play for 4 or 5 hours or anything like that. So they're finding ways to amuse themselves.
Hey, actually, it doesn't sound like you're looking for ways to amuse them. It looks like you're looking for ways to continue to test people as a coach.
Yeah. I kind of, you wonder as a parent, are they going to love the game the way that you loved it, and I grew up on a farm, and me and my dad, we built the Keyway. We concreted it and we put the hoop up, and I lived out there, absolutely lived out there. My parents called me in for dinner, and I was kind of isolated on the farm a little bit. My neighbors were a fair way away, and
Right.
And that's how I did my time. And so right now it's like, oh, I've got to find, I walk my dog for 3 hours a day right now, and I'm filling in my time. But just interesting to see the kids, to see, where they put their time right now in this isolation. And, they're playing well together, but I'm not sure if they're getting great at something.
So I saw, I've seen a lot of stuff that you post about them online, obviously. And so are they playing rep?
Yeah, they're with the Melbourne Tigers. There's kind of, my younger daughter, Georgia, 10 years old, it's kind of her first year of rep, and Jade's second year of rep. She's on under 14s, and they're playing in like the under 14 threes. And so, yeah, they're playing, and it's a reasonable level. And it's just interesting to see if they want to dedicate themselves to it or they want to do something else. And right now they just do the minimum.
So what time are you waking up every morning?
Me, I haven't changed my alarm. It's still going off just after 6. And so whether I jump straight up and take my dog for a walk at that time, or whether I get up and have breakfast and watch the news and see what's going on, or read or do something. But yeah, I'm struggling to turn over sometimes and stay until 7:30. But I wanted to let my alarm keep going off. I didn't want to get into straight holiday mode yet. No, I know that after even review meetings, always 3 weeks after review meetings, I just start to slow down. And so normally when I'm on a holiday, during this period, it's where as a family, we try and do something because we kind of miss all the other holidays. And I know on those holidays, I'm crazy and frantic to start with, and then by the end of the holiday, I'm starting like, I'll just walk a little bit slower and do things a little quieter and those kind of things. So I feel myself right now just kind of slowing down a little bit.
Well, tomorrow will be week 3, correct?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And
Wow.
Going to be interesting to see what the kids do with their schooling. How they're going to do it online. How's their dedication going to be? I know for me, it probably would have been a good thing because my report card always said easily distracted. So being in a room by myself might have been the best study habit for me.
So apparently, I think Queensland and Victoria are on the same program. For the first 5 weeks of the next term, they'll be homeschooled. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Who's in charge of making sure that they stick with the program while they're homeschooling? Is that you or your wife?
No, she works for Amazon, so they're actually really busy. So I've been chef. I've been kind of looking after the kids through the day, but they've been amusing themselves. So I've been looking after myself. And so it's going to be me. So we'll see how we go. Both my parents are teachers, so there must be something inbred in me.
Right. Okay. What about programming? What have you been watching? Give me your top 5 shows or movies or whatever, documentaries. Give me 5 good ones.
Yeah, I was a massive Billions fan, and I'm waiting for that one to come back.
Yep, me too.
Yeah. Shameless was a series that I watched a while back, and then I hadn't finished it. So I've actually just gone back and finished Shameless. Dysfunctional Chicago family.
I'm a fan of that too. She was actually just in Australia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. So I've just finished that one. I started Ozark a couple of days ago. I'm in a couple of episodes of that one. My girls and wife are watching Vampire Diaries, so I just disappear. Vampires have done nothing for me, so I've disappeared from that one. Yeah, but obviously looking forward to the Jordan series coming out soon as well. That's going to be fun.
The Last Dance. When is that out? Is that out maybe Saturday?
Yeah, I think they said, was it the 19th? Something like that. Yeah.
Okay. So this weekend coming up, the Last Dance will be out. Yeah, that's gonna be amazing. So who's the boss? Who's the boss when it comes, the 4 of you are chilling at the crib in the lounge and you're like, hey, yo, let's watch F1. Can you get overruled?
Oh, they can definitely get overruled. But I picked my moments. My competitive spirit has gone into Monopoly. So as a family, we're hitting Monopoly a couple of nights a week, and I've won the last 2. And last night it was just me and my wife, and our time limit expired, but we pushed it for another hour just to go and try and get a winner. So it was good fun.
Oh man, that's great. How much basketball are you into at the moment? Melbourne United.
Yeah. Obviously, it's a time for me that you really get to sit back and watch NBA and watch college and all those kind of things in your holiday period. And wherever we go on holidays, I'll make sure that they've got ESPN, they've got all the channels that I need, because I still want to go from the beach to go watch a basketball game. That's a holiday for me. So missing all that part at the moment. The basketball side for our work, we're doing a couple of clinics a week online, which has been great. 50, 60, 70 people kind of attending, just a half an hour talk about basketball with myself and Justin Schuler. And then just talking to Ross McMahon's my other assistant coach today, and he's creating another platform where coaches can join in a Zoom session and really, there's 3 seconds on the clock and you need a 3, everybody draw it up, and then, hey, we got this scenario as well, but then you got this player personnel, build your play and draw it and do it and challenge each other about that. So that's going to be real fun. We're going to do a couple of sessions of that this week.
So where do you guys are doing that on Zoom?
Yeah. I think his site's called Efficient Source. And so I think he's going to call this the source session or something like that. But yeah, just a good concept, and I'm sure it'll progress to a point where the whiteboards will get a little bit different, other than people just drawing on their own whiteboards and stuff. But yeah, good challenge. You don't often get to do something like that where everybody's drawing a play to go and get a win or whatever it might be, and learning from that. So that's going to be something I'm really looking forward to over the next couple of weeks.
Well, the move back to Melbourne for you was in 2018, correct? 2017, you decided to move back, right? That was after the 2016-2017 season with the Kings, where you were there for just the 1 year, right?
Yeah, the one season. I really, after my 9 years at the Breakers, I really thought it was a time, and our kids were young enough to say, there's one more adventure somewhere before we kind of settle down where they've got to go to high school. So we were looking at different opportunities around the world, but once Andrew called me and said, I'm going to take the Kings job. Will you come and help me? I was like, wow, this family's been so amazing to me my whole life. Lindsay gave me my first job at Basketball Victoria. Got to play with them, got to be on the coach's staff, so many great things. So to be with Andrew for his first year as a head coach in the league, it was something I'll never forget. And then the carrot of having coached there as well, and obviously me being a training guy and small-time player on a Tigers team back in the day, watching those two banter at practice was the most fun about going to practice. Now seeing them on the coaching side and the banter that they still had in the coach's office and bouncing off each other was just as much fun as well.
Well, you were a part of the championship team in '93, correct?
No, I never won a championship as a player. We lost, what was that, 91, 92, something like that. We lost to the Magic, lost to Andre. He was on the other team. And then, I pretty much went and played, Siebel after that.
Oh.
But, 2006, I was on the coaching staff of that group when I come back with Anstey and DMAC and that group, and that was good fun. That stopped the Kings winning 4 in a row.
So I wanted to actually just take a little digression, because I saw one of my Derek Rucker basketball players logged on, and she was a former Victorian who's moved up to Queensland. Let's just talk about junior basketball. And in your opinion, why is Victoria so strong just year after year?
Yeah, there's a weight of numbers to start with.
Yep.
When you go, like I was talking, my daughters are in, Tigers 3 and Tigers 4 or something like that. They're going down to Tigers 7 and Tigers 8 at different age groups, and that's just the one club. And when you've got all these other clubs, fighting to do this, and then it's like, well, what am I going to get to next year? What have I got to do to go from the thirds to the seconds and then hopefully get the chance to get to the first? So, there's such a pathway just within your club about trying to get to the first team. And they just don't have that, anywhere else. You don't have to fight like that. I don't think anywhere else in Australia to jump that many levels to try and get to the top. But, it's got its pluses and it's got its downfall, playing 40 plus weeks a year. There's some burnout, with some kids. And I know as a parent, just following it around the last couple of years, it's tough. It's tough. You kind of wish that there was a bit more of an off season. Obviously, they're getting it right now. They're getting a heavy off season right now. But, you kind of wish. I look at American sport a little bit more and say they do a good job with the off season. They do a good job with, trying to get better at something while, they're not looked after by their coach.
Well, I mean, I've been speaking to a lot of American college coaches right now, and it's a really strange time because, especially as it goes to recruiting overseas talent, they're going to have to roll the dice to some extent. They're not getting the evaluation time. So it's just a crazy time, Dean.
Yeah, it is. I had a really good chat with Kirk Penny the other day, who was at Wisconsin this year and joined their coaching staff, and always interested to hear about what Tony Bennett's doing with that program, one of the best defensive programs in the country for a long time now, and just see how he runs his program. But they're the same as us. They're searching right now. They've had a 3-hour Zoom meeting about how do we get our players, how do we connect with them? What do we need them doing at this time of year while they're in isolation? Have we got them all the equipment they need? And then, Ross McMahon's gone back to the States, and he was going back for pre-draft, and now there's no pre-draft workouts right now. People can't go and do that. So is the draft going to move? Is it going to stay at the same point? A lot of people are going to have to scout differently and seek a lot of different information other than getting them in workouts and being able the opportunity to interview them, sitting in their lounge room.
Well, I mean, obviously, we're doing a lot better. I mentioned in the lead up in the intro to tonight, we're doing a lot better here in Australia than probably, we got to be in the top 5 in the world in terms of response to the virus and everything that's happened. But still, there are going to be some significant changes when we come out of this. Who knows what it's going to look like in terms of those, medium-sized group settings, 20 to 40 people, which is, basketball. That's a regular training session. What are going to be the restrictions and regulations when it comes around to those things? And the rest of the world is so far behind us, who knows how, when we're actually going to be able to mingle with the rest of the world again. Because certainly after what we've endured for the past 3 to 4 weeks, the last thing I want is the borders to be open and us revisit this situation in another four months' time, Dean. F that.
Yeah, no, I hear. And obviously we're at, at league administration level, there's obviously conversations going around. What do we look like without imports if they don't open that up? And because we're not a league like AFL or NRL that survives if we don't have fans. That they have TV money. We rely on sponsors and fans. So we're not a league that can get that done. So whatever product we end up being able to put on the floor, we need to fill the gyms still. So it still has to be an amazing product that people want to go and watch. So hopefully they do open the borders at that point for restricted people to come in. Hopefully that can help our country and help our sport. But if not, it's going to be a fight to get the best quality talent that we can.
I was just, before we came on, I was just listening to the Bill Simmons podcast, and some of the things that they're proposing with the NBA is that they may resume games, but out of training venues.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. The concept of, everybody gathering in one point, such as NRL are talking about, and playing games and filming them and, playing them at different times or whatever. It's such a weird concept, as a coach, you can't really turn to anyone other than people who've gone to an Olympics or a world champs. It's kind of like that. You're just throwing a massive tournament together and trying to get ready for every game. So yeah, we all just don't know. I think that's the part that we're all struggling with, to say, yep, free agency is supposed to open on May 1, but how can free agency really open if we really don't know what our league looks like? It's going to be tough.
The advantage I think the NBL, just like the NFL has, is just the timing of the season right now. We sort of completed that last season, but anyway, we went a week within the regular window, so that wasn't that bad. It's not like the NBA where they're just missing a whole chunk, and they may have to write that part of the season off without bumping into the next season. But the NBL is in a decent situation because at least, if need be, we can bump that thing back a month without causing serious detriment to anything. You know what I'm saying? And the NFL in America is in a similar position as well. It's just a matter of, if we only need to get 20 people into the country to make this a full-fledged league like last season, damn, man, you would think that's possible. Maybe 30, 3 imports per team, 27 guys.
Yeah, you'd think so. And whether the next star proposal is still something that's viable to say, if you can get the right guys, it's an income generator if you get it right for the league and for the team. And so, you still have to continue to look at that one. But yeah, you'd hope that the timing of our league is we just about finished. Hopefully we can get through it, and October seems still like a long ways away right now for us to. And if we're starting to bend the curve the right way, you just hope and you're optimistic that we're one of the first sporting codes that starts up with every facility, with players, with fans, with everything, with sponsors coming back on board to a league that starts at the right time.
And from a leverage point of view, I think it helps the NBL if the NRL is allowed to play. Now, I'm not saying one way or the other if I agree with the NRL, with what they're trying to do is correct. But if the NRL is able to move in there and get its league going, certainly that opens up a big door for other sporting competitions to be like, hey, we're going as well. We may be able to do it in a safer way after the NRL loads up.
Yeah, I think all the world is looking for someone else to test it right now. That test the schooling system. What's going to happen right there? Test a sporting code with no fans. Test all these little things. But again, I think we're positioned at the right time that we can see a lot of other tests. Not sure if we'll see what happens in Europe or anything like that before us. And again, they're going to have their battles as well. But yeah, it's a trial and error thing right now, but I think we're in a good position for that.
Okay, so let's talk about that 2018 championship season. I don't know if you saw I had Phil Handy on the other day. And
yeah, I saw a little bit of Phil. And
Great
he's
guy.
been out with us the last 2 years
Yeah.
in preseason, and amazing career that he's had so far as a coach. And it was awesome to have him out. He still moves so well. I know he had some knee problems at the end of his career right now, but him bouncing the basketball, guys looking at him like, wow, this guy's 50 plus, and he's still shaking that thing pretty well. Just absolutely demands and respect to start with.
Yeah. So that 2018 season, Dean, you guys came in there and look, a very talented team, but we've seen, you and I have been in this league for 30 years. We've seen that talented teams doesn't mean jack. You've got to put all the pieces together. The chemistry's got to be right. The schemes have got to be right. What was the key that year? You guys, so let's go through your imports. You had Casper Ware, Casey Prather, and Josh Boone.
Yeah. Always liked the imports that have, seen the league. And so Josh and Casper kind of came in halfway through that season before, established himself and understood the league pretty well, what it was all about. Getting Casey, who just, hadn't lost in our league, getting a winner to come to your team. But then for him to go take that injury, and again, we were 6-6 or something when he went down. We were still trying to find ourselves and find how you put all that talent and all the usage together. And Carrick Felix came in, and we just didn't lose. That was the thing that triggered us. Everybody else stepped up a little bit. Everyone stopped looking around to say, "Oh, is it his turn? Is it his turn?" And we just turned it up as a group, and it was never a tough decision at the end to say, do we bring Casey back or not? You kind of have to anyway by the league rules to say if he's healthy, he needs to come back. But I always wanted that extra little bit of isolation, go-to guy that Casey kind of brings, and that winning, experience that he'd had. So, that part wasn't a tough decision. The leaders of that group, and I think I've just kind of been reading a book called The Captain's Class, and it kind of talks about all the elite teams in the world. They try to get these tier 1 teams. They came up with like 16 teams.
Right.
And is it the coach? Is it the culture? Is it the money? Is it the administration? And they come up with the thing that was most important was the captain or the glue guy of all these teams. And, for us during that one, Dave Anderson was really important. Ty Wesley was really important. Chris was our captain, but he couldn't have done the job that he did without those guys, Dave Barlow behind him as well. There was a lot of other kind of captains and glue guys, and Dave Anderson just understood when it was time for him to just chip in. And he'd won so many things that he could kind of refer back to just winning over in Europe or winning somewhere else or winning, he'd kind of been there before. It just gave everybody an air of confidence about, we can deal with this. I've been through this before. This is how we get through it, and let's roll. And that's how we did it.
And somehow, like even this year, we're going to touch on this past season, but one thing that I noticed about your teams, you always get a hot streak at some point in the season. You're always capable of running off 6 or 7 wins in a row. And I think realistically, it's you and Joey Wright over the past 10 years who are the coaches that have been able to consistently do that. Now, you're probably like, damn, the reason why we needed to run off 6 or 7 in a row is because we lost 4 in a row. but it's very hard to run off 6 or 7 wins in a row. That is, but you and Joey seemingly have been able to do that. How can you pull that out of your team? Because you did it, twice this past season almost.
Yeah, we had the run after we lost to Perth on the buzzer. We lost the first one to the Phoenix, who, that was their first game of their franchise, and they were jumping out of their skin. We always knew that was going to be a tough one, and we had a couple of injuries as well. But credit to them, they got that first win. But we won the other 3, which was important in the throwdown series that we did win that one. But yeah, they got that. We lose to Perth by a point. We go on to the NBA trip. We come back and lose again. to Perth by a couple of points, and so we
Yeah.
felt like we were playing pretty good basketball, but we just hadn't got those results early on. And then, once we strung it together, and some people got over some injuries, but that first part of the season, when we were probably the most affected team by the world champs with Barlow and Chris, and then we had three guys with New Zealand, and we had Paul Ianari, and we had Ross McMains, two of our coaching staff. It was like half our group was pretty much missing. And then in that early phase of the season, Paulie comes to me and says, "Hey, I got a job in Japan. I kind of want to take it." And I was like, "Wow, this thing's real tough right now." That was at a point where we hadn't won a game. I was like, "Wow, is this thing falling to pieces, or were you going to pull it together?" And so again, when you lose something like a Casey Prather or a Paul Ianari, and then everyone just bonds together a little bit more, and everybody just steps up, and that's how we got on that 6-game win streak. Everyone just took on a little bit extra load.
And it's funny that I mentioned, going back to that 2018 season, because Melbourne United, you guys wound up facing the other coach that I just mentioned, Joey Wright, and both of you have hot teams. I think Adelaide had just knocked off Perth, and you guys had beaten Sydney.
Yeah, we got Sydney in the semi-final. We swept that one, and great series, just an amazing series, and it had some really good battles with Joey, and that we'll kind of watch that one back in years to come, and where he wasn't talking to the press, and he was having to go with, who am I going to talk to? Am I going to talk to Melbourne about Melbourne, and him saying stuff like that through that series, and it was crazy.
We all enjoyed it, and you definitely enjoyed it as a coach. Can I tell you who didn't enjoy it dealing with you two guys?
Scotty.
The referees.
Yeah.
You, Joey, yourself, and Trevor are entertaining when it comes to putting that heat on the referees. And, for people that don't really know the ins and outs of basketball, it's something it's something you got to do. Like, there's a skill to that, knowing how to manipulate the referees as much as possible, work them over. Well, you've seen it. This is a part of the game that's gone back hundreds of years. Yeah,
it's an interesting one. And Joey, and Trevor, when you hear, or especially in that grand final series, where you say there's no crowd, it's like, wow, I think they just turned up the mics, because you're just hearing everything that Trevor says, and it's like, wow, I didn't know he was that constant. But yeah, it's you need to go fight for your players. You need to go fight for every little advantage that you can, and hopefully we don't step over the line, and every now and again we try and put some comedy in there with some of the referees just to get them smiling a little bit as well. But it was a battle over the last couple of years about, and I think one of your questions was, how do we get better at the refereeing side of the game? And for me, I'm not sure if we need to follow FIBA. I'm not sure if we follow the NBA, but I think we just got to find our little niche about, hey, this is Australian basketball. This is how we like to see it played. We want to have the guys that are not in the NBA come to our league. That we want to really be the next thought for them. Whether Europe's still going to pay some extra money, but do we change some of our rules to say, that floor looks exactly the same as the NBA floor. We got some of their rules, and I'm still happy for us to explore all those kind of options.
Right.
I'm not sure if we're really are we a league that's trying to win the gold medal, or are we an entertainment league? Are we really helping the Boomers, or are we trying to really help our owners, make some money and make this thing, as entertaining a league as we possibly can?
Yeah, and that's a tough one. I mean, I've been critical of the standard of the defense often in the NBL, but then when I sat back and I really looked at it, I would imagine it'd be very tough playing one-on-one defensively now in the NBL based on how the game is officiated.
Yeah, it is. And I just felt like when we went to the NBA, those games, you just kind of felt like you knew what the call was going to be, all the time.
Yep.
And, if they talked to you about putting a hand on, if they did whatever it was, you kind of knew what the call was going to be. And they looked after the offense enough, but they let the physicality go at the right times as well. And
That's the thing.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but I think, we can get better. And I think, more input at the start of the season. We just really didn't get a meeting together with all the coaches and the referee. And we just got to get on the same page right from the start and make sure that we can hash some things out. Everybody can put their point forward, and then we can really be a bit united on how we see the game being played.
Yeah. So in that 5-game series against the Sixers in 2018, obviously you win it in a game 5 in Melbourne, correct?
Yeah. All games were won at home. No one won on the road.
And you had, I thought, at one point in the series, Josh Boone looked like he was really laboring. I think he had a bad back through that series, got jolted a couple of times. But, man, was Casper Ware just fantastic. And really, I think that playoff run and that grand final series just showed what type of terrific player he was and still is.
Yeah, Casper, we put a lot of load on him, with the things that we asked him to do. And I thought with that group, he was, we still wanted to let him have his isolations and let him go. But there was a lot of people creating a lot of space for him as well. When you got Chris and Barlow really stretching things out, Josh Boone was one of the best, dunker spots receiver. He just knew where to be and what time to move, and he was great at that. And then, having Wesley, having that post presence plus a guy that can go step out as well. We had some pieces, and then you put Casey Prather with that as well. It was a really talented roster, but Casper was still the one. When we needed something to happen, it was him to go get your feet in the paint and make a decision for us. You've got the on ball right now. We're spreading it out and go ahead and make some decisions for us. So, but for Chris to get grand final MVP, that was a credit to him, because I think in all the championships that I've been a part of, there's someone that wants it more than anyone, and he wanted that one really bad. Paul Ianari wanted the first one in New Zealand that we won. When CJ come over, he really drove that. Him and Boucher, they had this little duo going about leading that thing to championship, and then doing it again. And there's always someone that wants it, is hungrier a little bit more than anyone else.
So when you have that discussion in the lead up to a game, say you're playing on a Friday night, and that you need a little something extra from Chris, so you need a little something extra from Casper. How do you approach that, Dean? Do you go to the guy and be like, hey, I need you to get me 25, 30, or are you like, let's be more aggressive, or I'm going to run more sets? How do you attack that as a coach?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever really gone to someone and say, we need 30 out of you tonight, or we need that out of you tonight. I think I've posed it more as hey, we need you to be ultra aggressive tonight. This is where I think the help may come from. These are the punishments, I think, if the help does come. But if the help's not coming, it's your world, and go for it. So, more phrased it like that one. And I think those experienced guys, they understand that message before I've delivered it anyway. But I think they just like the extra bit of encouragement to say, coach just told me, you got to go tonight.
Oh, that never sucks hearing that, Dean. That's never a bad thing. Let's look at a weekly scenario for you, okay? So let's say you have a Saturday afternoon home game. It's Monday. How does your week look leading up to that Saturday afternoon game? I know a lot of fans are always curious as to how this works.
So we're on a Monday leading into a Saturday game.
Yep.
Yeah. We like to start the week. Certainly, we meet straight after the game, so we know what that next practice is going to look like, and who we can get some contact into and who doesn't need it. So we really start the week with called a what you need day. And it's exactly that. So if you need to shoot it, if you need to play 3-on-3, if you need to go and lift and go home, everyone will watch video that day, but then everyone's kind of on their individual program. And we like starting the week that way because we know the next day is going to be our tough day. And we want everybody, is in good a physical shape to get that first scout day on the Tuesday.
So we're cracking on Tuesday. Tuesday, we're into it.
Yeah, Tuesday we're going. And again, we'll limit the full court work, but we'll get at least a couple of 5-minute games in, and we'll get a D-trans drill in as well. So we may spend 12 to 15 minutes in the full court, but most of it grinding out. Trying to get 3 stops in a row, trying to really push it to get them to maximum effort on that day. Having our defensive, coach, which was Ross McMains and Paulie Hanari before that, and Simon Mitchell before that, go ahead and drive our defense on this day. Obviously we've met a couple of times before that as a coaching staff to get on the same page, but I really, push those guys to own that area and really, demand excellence. And there's been a couple of questions in clinics lately about if it's not right, do you stop it or do you, keep going? And certainly on the defensive side, we've said, hey, we're going 3 more reps, or we're going 2 more reps. We're not happy with where we're at, and so we'll happily cut something at the end of practice to make sure our defensive scout on the Tuesday and the Thursday has got the intent that we wanted into it.
So Wednesday would be a day off, massage, that type of stuff.
Correct. Yeah, massage, individual video. Limited amount of contact with the staff. It's mostly medical staff and high performance staff. Thursday, similar to the Tuesday in the scouting, but again, we can refine it and we can have it a little bit shorter, far more emphasis on the offensive side of the ball on that Thursday. And then Friday, clarity day, nothing new. Let's just hit the things that we've talked about all week. And again, we evaluate.
Does your persona change, or do you? I mean, if I was a team coach, I like to try and I was always a bit harder, and then as the week goes on to the games, I'm trying to pump some sunshine, pump some good feelings into them, so that we're feeling good going into the games. Or are you just?
Yeah, I think I try and get a read on the group as well about how I need to be, but they've always, the feedback for me is, hey, we need you emotionally to be really consistent with us, but there's going to be those times where you got to smash us, but otherwise be really consistent. And so I try and do that, but again, reading the mood of the group. Sometimes after a weight session, a player will come to me, Nick Popovich will come to me, someone will say, hey, they're a little bit flat today, what's that mean? How's that going to adjust my program, or am I just going to be a bull at the gate today and say, I don't care how you're feeling, we're going for it because we need it right now, and make it a sales pitch about how it's going to help us win the basketball game. But I try not to change too much. Friday we always play soccer. We have Friday soccer. It's something we put in there a few years ago, and it stays there. And so it's a good 10-minute soccer game, and that starts a good light-hearted mood, but with some competitiveness to it on the Friday. And obviously I shoot around going into the game. And, I like to send little clips out to the guys, review practice, something great, pass of the day, screen of the day, something like that, and put that out to the group about some of the really good things that we did in practice.
So check this. So on say you were playing on the road, when would you depart? Say you're playing Perth on the Saturday instead of at home now. Do you leave Thursday or do you leave Friday?
Yeah, no, we leave. We in New Zealand, we really messed around with, because of the time difference, about how long, what was best. And we actually got to a point where the ambush was much better. to be in Perth a limited amount of time as we possibly could for the game end up being the best scenario because of you can't catch up on the time difference anyway. So, just hitting it quick and getting out was the best. We found a rhythm where most of our road trips, say a one to Perth, is that we would practice in the morning. We would leave around lunchtime. We'd get there late afternoon, get to the park, get a little bit of, run going, kick a footy, do something, and have dinner and then try and stay up as late as we can, which is like a 9:30, 10 o'clock in Perth, and most people are crashing out. And then
I know, and I would always I'd always wake up like at normal East Coast time, and I'm down at the restaurant at 5 a.m. They're like, "Sir, we're not open yet."
Absolutely, yeah, and take a walk or do something, but trying to get your sleep right in Perth, and we had, especially with New Zealand, we had so much more success in the afternoon games, getting to that night game on a 7:30 over there, it was always tough to get a win.
And now this is a dilemma that so many coaches face on all levels. The double game weekend where, say, you got a Friday night game and a Sunday game. How do you prepare? And this drove me crazy, and I tried both ways. Do you just prepare for the first one and then go short prep on the second one, just kind of cram it in? Or do you go equal prep throughout the week on both games?
Yeah, I think we just certainly absolutely focus on the first one, but in our scouting, and we'll look at both scouts that week and say, is there anything that crosses over where we can actually, prepare for game two without the guys knowing that they're preparing for game two, because we're doing it, in Scout 1. We'll look at common themes about what could help us for the next one. But, totally focus on the first one.
So you're against bringing up the thought of the second game to the group?
Totally, yeah. Until that one's done, then we move on. And I'd rather have a limited prep and say, we know what our standards are. We know the things that when we play well and we defend like that we're going to be okay. Does this next team have something that we need to be more aggressive, less aggressive? Is there a personnel that we need to trap? There's something outside of our scheme. So then we'll just focus on those few things.
It's such an interesting one, isn't it? Because I'm like you, I agree. I would rather give everything and really get that first game and then roll the dice on the second game. The only thing is, if you don't perform and lose that first one, you're like, God damn it.
Yeah. It'd be hard. You're seeing some of that tournament play where, that's the right thing to do. We can, Andre did it and, was it the right thing? And I think it was, he did what he was supposed to do to try and win that championship. And so that tournament play scenario becomes, a little bit different to a regular season like us.
So let's look at the past season, Dean, which was like we touched on a little bit how you guys were streaky. And I think we got all the way up until you got hot, then you got cold. And then I thought you made one of the biggest moves in a number of years and Andrew disagreed with me, but Andrew Gaze disagreed with me when he was on the podcast because he said it didn't affect the players' playing time. But that wasn't necessarily my point. When you take a player of Melo Trimble's status, and I'm sure he has a certain degree of ego, as all really, really talented players do, and you come to him mid-stroke during the season and say, Melo, I'm gonna bring you off the bench, my man, and this is the way it's gonna look. Like, I don't care if you're playing 30 seconds less. The facade of it, the book cover, doesn't look the same to the player of that caliber. How did you address that? Because I thought it was one of the more courageous moves of a number of years, and also one of the best moves in a decade or so.
Yeah, I think we tossed around with it for a while. During that stretch.
Just you and the coaches?
No, Chris was, Chris is great like that. Hey, coach, if you think bringing me off the bench like we did last year is going to help, I'm more than happy to do it. When we talk about Melo and we made that decision, it was a quick meeting with Melo. It really was. It's like, Melo, I'm not going to over explain this. We're going to bring you off the bench and we just want you to be you. You know, hopefully we can limit some fouls from other people. We think we're going to get the best out of Shea and Mitch if we go and do this. You're going to be in at the end of the game. You know, and that's about as much as the conversation was. And he was like, cool, you know, let's go. You know, and it didn't really affect him at all. And so pleased with the way he responded to it. So pleased that he played, you know, really well. But obviously that was a learning experience from the Casey Prayer, the Carrick Felix one, to say, yeah, maybe we've just got too many people in this starting lineup that need their shots. You know, let's take one of them off the bench and, you know, let them come in and let it have a better balance to it.
And I thought Shea Illy came in and played. He lifted his game in the new role in which he came into, and it did provide you guys with a lot better balance. And then when Melo was coming in the game, good Lord.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you know, you try and you deal with Shea Illy defending you, and then, all right, Melo Trimble's coming in now, or you go and try and defend him. You know, we were tiring some of those guys out, and if it wasn't Melo going against Casper Ware, you know, now is Sean Bruce, and it's a little bit different and things like that. Or, you know, you just sometimes getting a few more backups, you know, in the guys that are guarding Melo as well. We gave him extra confidence to go ahead and be aggressive. So
you guys go on a run then. You heat up now. Melo's found his way. Chris is feeling pretty good. And I really like Stanton Kidd. I thought he hit a lot of timely shots for you guys. He seemed low maintenance, didn't need a lot of usage. I think, you know, going forward, he could be a real serviceable import in this competition. You guys get hot. It comes down to that crazy last weekend where Brisbane needed to beat Cairns by 34 or something to keep pressure on you guys. That happens. Whatever. Then you guys need
it was a crazy game. It was crazy watching it.
I mean, what? No one ever wins that. No one wins like that anymore in the MDL, and this just happens to happen on that weekend when they need it most. Okay, whatever. Yeah. And then on the Sunday, you guys, I didn't think there was ever any doubt. I was going to call them the Magic. The Phoenix do a good job. Like, they're hanging tough with you guys. But I kept telling my friends, Melbourne are going to, don't worry about this. Melbourne United are going to handle it. And you guys did. And you get yourselves a spot in the playoffs after looking dead about 3 different times throughout the season.
Yeah, and it was, I think I had a game years ago against Joey where we had a similar kind of season where we started really well. Corey and said something happened with them in the middle of the season and they weren't quite connecting. And then we lost a few, and then we had to win some games at the end of the year. And I think it was going to be a double win if we beat Adelaide and we beat them by 22 points or something crazy like that. And so, again, we'd never talked about it. We didn't talk about the number, but you know, during the game, once it got close, it's like, hey, fellas, we win this by 22. You know, we get it kind of a double win. During that period, say, percentage was so important at the end of the season, and so, fellas, we got to win by as much as we can. Every game, not just win. We're going to try and win by as much as we can, and it was a really good mindset, great mindset for everybody to never take the foot off the pedal. Because that was who we were as a group. We'd win one in the preseason and feel a little good about ourselves, lose one, you know, and that was this group. You know, they just weren't very good when they played well to try and do it again for a while.
Right. So you guys load up first against, and I hate having to revisit this because I'm sure it's probably starting to heal over a little bit.
Yeah.
The 3-game series against the Sydney Kings this season. Game 1, you're up. You guys are playing outstanding basketball. You have the Kings. They're up against the ropes. They're basically knocked out. You're up 16 on their floor with about 5.5 minutes to go. History shows that they make a run, come back and get you. How did you rebound from that one, man? Like before game 2, I mean.
And you know, I needed to watch it. I in the locker room, I was like, hey, someone get me this last 5 minutes. I need to see what happened. You know, straight away before I go back to the hotel, and sat there and watched it. And I was like, wow,
Alone?
you know,
Who'd you watch it with?
oh, we had a couple other coaches were doing different things. I sat there, watched it by myself, and I was still talking to people. It's like, oh, damn, we turned that thing over twice there. You know, we didn't take care of it. You know, 3 quick shots, but they're the things that we were preaching the whole last month of the season. We just preached it. It's like, fellas, we got to kill teams right now. We got to, you know, you get an open shot, a good open look, go ahead and knock it in. And, you know, that's how we got to where we were. And just a little bit of composure, if we had it shown in that game, you know, we could have won it. But you credit to them. DD was amazing. Credit to their crowd. You know, they did a really good job. And once they got, you know, a little bit of a sniff, that they really brought them home. They were loud.
Now, so you guys, obviously that time you took to review the game worked out well, because game 2 is one of the biggest demolitions in NBL playoff history. You guys at one point have a 58-point lead. How is that possible?
How crazy is that? Even, you know, I've gone back and watched that game a couple of times just to say, well, it doesn't happen in semi-final, but it doesn't happen in finals basketball, that kind of result. We're talking about the Brisbane game, and they had to win by 30 in that one, and we're up 58 in a semi-final series after we just got beat. You know, being up 16, and we lose that game, and you know, we just were confident in the game plan that we had. You know, we thought our defense was good. We thought there were some holes for us, you know, to shoot the basketball better than we did the last game. And yeah, we gelled after that loss. So fantastic. You know, felt pretty confident going back to Sydney for game 3.
Now, game 3, once again, so up until this point, Dean, you guys have dominated 7.5 out of 8 quarters. You've got a 70. You've had leads of up in total. You're up 58, and you were up, I think, 9. Were you up 19 in game 1?
I think it definitely went above 16. I think.
Yeah. So you have massive leads in this 2-game series thus far. You're going back to Sydney, and I'm like, this is Melbourne's game. Now, my man Shane Heel said on this podcast a couple of weeks ago, Melbourne were screwed in game 3 by the refs. You had a bit to say after that game. And look, I'm not the type of guy who puts that. I never like to focus on the refs as a player, and I know as a coach and so forth. But sometimes you got to call that shit the way it is. And there was some stuff going down in game 3 where it led you to make some comments post-match.
Yeah, but I thought there was a little bit of a rhythm to it in the season to say, you know, we beat them at home the first time that we played them, and we went back there, and it was just ridiculous the calls that they got, and I couldn't understand it, and so, you know, I told Scotty going in that finals, I said, Scotty, we've seen this before, you know, we beat them at home, and, you know, Will cries about the referee, and then it changes, and it felt like it did that first quarter again. You know, it wasn't the end of the game or different. There's always some calls, but, you know, if we have 12 fouls called in the first quarter, and a lot of our main guys being massive troubled, and having to manage them all throughout the game, you know, had a massive effect on how we played and things that we were capable of doing.
And let me touch on that, Dean, real quickly. When you say Scotty, you're referring to Scotty Butler, head of officials for the NBL, for those that don't know. And secondly, the effect that it has on players, especially key players who work off of rhythm, who need to feel the game to get into it and to fully impact. Not every player is like that, but a lot of players are, especially the very good players. The high IQ players rely on the rhythm and reading the game. And unless you're on the floor, it's hard to get that flow and to find your way and get the touches and get your radar in, feel the game and so forth. And, you know, that's why people are like, oh, foul trouble's not that big deal. It's hard when you get in foul trouble in the first quarter to sit out 10, 15 minutes of real time and then come back in there and try and be that same impactful guy. And that's kind of what you're alluding to.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Barlow in foul trouble. He was so important to us to space the floor. And, Stanton, wasn't quite the same Stanton that played in game 2. He didn't have I don't think he scored in that last game either. And, Sean being in foul trouble, trying to really manage, those guys. So, it was tough, but anytime you get back to your phone and you turn it on and you're sitting there and you're feeling a little glum after a loss, but you got over 100 messages saying just what Shane said, and it's like, well, there must be something to this. I'm not the only one that just dealt with this. I don't want to make excuses.
No.
They won the game, but there was some things that didn't help us.
Wow. Well, I mean, if there's any consolation to it, the job you did throughout this season, I mean, it was probably one of, the 5 or 6 seasons that I've seen you coach, that was probably one of your better coaching seasons, to get that team going, make the transitions, make the adjustments that you had to do. So I know you don't bring back the trophy because, you knock off Sydney, and then, wow, I thought that Perth actually preferred to see Sydney as opposed to you guys.
Yeah, we beat them twice throughout the year. They beat us twice on 2 buzzer beaters. So we were feeling pretty good if we got a chance to go ahead and play Perth. But the credit to Trevor. What's he won 5 in the last 7 years, and Damien
He's pretty
Martin
hot right now. He's pretty hot right now.
Damien Martin and Jesse Wagstaff. Those two. They've been there the whole time as well. We talk about key glue guys. Those 2 have been amazing for that program. You look back at some of those other guys, Mika and Sed Jackson and CJ and Boucher, it was all those guys that kind of went through those eras together. Who did you think on that Kings three-peat was kind of the most important to that group back in the day?
Ooh, was that the Jason Smith era?
Jason Smith, Nielsen.
Yeah, see, I always thought that, was Brad Sheridan in that group? No.
I think he was, yeah.
They had so many of those vital little pieces there. And then
CJ wasn't there for all 3, but I think he was there for 2.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Gores was always great at bringing those groups together. Hey, Dino, we are up to the 60-minute mark. So I appreciate the time, man. Hey, this is going to go on for a while, this hiatus we're in. Can you come back in a couple of months and we'll see where we are then?
Love to, mate. Good talking to you.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. Appreciate the honesty. And, hey, stay busy down there in Melbourne. Stay off the streets.
All right. Thanks, mate.
All right. See you, Dave.